Okay,
Yeah.
sige. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll be talking about this presentation that I made last night while watching Obiena sa pole vault. It was in the wee hours of the morning. All right, so the talk will be about Philippine disasters and the importance of hazard maps. Actually, the topic was about natural hazards, landslides, and other geological hazards and severe weather hazards. No? But I just thought of presenting this para mas direct to the point and merong solution at hindi lang problema ang pinag-uusapan ko. Here we are seeing that the Philippines is in the typhoon belt. No? We are hit by a lot of typhoons, and we also have problems related to earthquakes as well as volcanism because we are in the Pacific Ring of Fire. And because of that, in 2022, we have been ranked as the top in the World Risk Index with a rank of 46.82, followed by India and Indonesia. In 2023, you can see that although the focus is in diversity, last time it was on digitalization, that was last year, we still are number one. Ito na naman tayo, number one. And if you will compare it to Japan, which has the same, probably more hazards than we have, they are only ranked 24. And the reason for that is because this table refers to risk. No, we may have the same type of hazards and the same exposure to hazards, but there is more to determining risk other than just hazards. We have to deal with the exposure, the hazard itself, as well as the vulnerabilities, where we deal with susceptibility, coping capacity, and adaptive capacity. And probably because we have lower values for that, indices for that, our World Risk Index makes us number one. So that means that we really have a lot more to do to decrease this World Risk Index. Hopefully, we'll become lower than these other countries if we do more. In terms of exposure to natural hazards, according to the World Bank, we are exposed to about 60% land area, and our population is exposed to 74%. Sorry, 60% of the land area and 74% of the population. And the reason for that is because we are exposed to a lot of hazards, no? Volcanic phenomena that leads to certain types of hazards, namely pyroclastic flows, pyroclastic fall, debris avalanches, lahar, lava, tsunami, noxious gas fire. These are the hazards that we need to prepare for in advance. Also for earthquakes, which are geological hazards, earthquakes, which is the phenomenon. The earthquake itself does not kill. It's the hazards that do. And these hazards are ground rupture, ground shaking, ground subsidence, liquefaction, landslides, earthquake-generated tsunamis, and SAIS. Again, these are the hazards that we have to prepare for in advance. Apart from the geological hazards, we have severe weather hazards as well that we need to prepare for. Floods, rain-triggered landslides, storm surges, strong winds, and of course, also the other hydrometeorological related hazards such as drought. Now, we have this website in NOAA which was generated. Yung mga flood maps were generated during the time of President Noynoy Aquino. And we tried to do maps for the entire country at high resolution. And we put it up on a website, including not just the hazard, but also the built-up areas where the populations are. It is easy to look at this. Just go to noaa.up.edu.ph and you will find the hazards in your neighborhood. So that's the reason why the first page contains Know Your Hazards. What we need to do is before the event happens or the hazard makes its impact, we should know our neighborhood, maybe our subdivision, our home, the place of work, the office, and the school area of our children, such that if we know the hazards of places where we go to, we are prepared and know what to do when there is an imminent impact of the hazards that will be advised to us by the government, such as Pag-asa, which are monitoring agencies. If you go to the site, you just type your place, your office, your house, and then an assessment can be made. For example, this one, my house, I know that even if there is severe weather, I have not much of a problem in terms of floods, landslides that are rainfall triggered, and also for storm surge. So nothing to worry about. But I also have to worry about my direct community, my neighborhood, because if a disaster takes place in my community, then I will also be affected indirectly. Now, if you visit it's raining very hard now outside, so I don't know if you can still hear me, but I will just continue talking. If you visit the NOAA website, there's an advanced version. It's called NOAA Studio. You will see the building footprints, which were made by artificial intelligence, as well as the work of youth mappers, mga open street mappers. And the reason why we are doing that is because we want people to visualize where the hazards are. During normal days, that is the state of the river. But during heavy impact of rainfall, the floods that will be spawned may look like this. And if you see, or if the people see in the website that floods may happen like this, we can easily see all of those places, the buildings, the settlements that are in trouble. And these people who live in these places that are in trouble need to know that those are the flood-prone areas, and also become aware that if a major rainfall event happens, such as what happened during Karina and the Habagat drains, they know what to do to flee from that place in advance, not during when they are already being flooded, and to see the places which are safe or safest in their neighborhood. So if you know that in advance, you would not go from one safe place to another unsafe, one unsafe place to another unsafe place. You would go from one unsafe place to a safe places. The business of hazards mapping is not really just to identify the hazards, but really to identify the safest places for evacuation and, more importantly, development. Because if we move development out of harm's way, there will be no disasters to talk about when the hazards make their thing or impact. Now, during Habagat 2024, that was on July 24, we saw an increase in search requests for the website, and it totaled 2,659,212. Initially, I said that the day before, nobody visited the website, but it appears that there were about 35,000 who visited it, who prepared. But what we really need to happen is for all Filipinos to be aware of the hazards in their neighborhood. And that way, we can mitigate loss of lives. You can see here the tally. So from July 18 to August 1, there were about 4,582,786 search requests, people who wanted to know if there were hazards in their neighborhood. They wanted to know where the safe places were to go when there is a severe weather event that is imminent. Now, we try to do crowdsourcing validation points during Habagat. 2024, and you can see that all of the accounts, 100% of the accounts that were placed in social media corresponded to the places that were identified in the simulations of Project NOAA as flood prone. So I'll just run through all of these. Just look at the red star. If there's a blue in the background, that means it's flood prone. And that is matched by the citizen accounts that were posted on social media. Okay, so I'll just go Bus Terminal, Philippine Senate, Northville 48, Novaliches, Bilibid Viejo in Quiapo, General Araneta, Bacoor, Cavite, Senator Hill Puyat, Palanan, Makati, Marulao, Valenzuela City, Negros Corner, Sampaloc, Visayas Avenue, Sampaloc, Manila, Quirino Highway, Paso de Blas, Valenzuela, Ibayo, Bagbag, Novaliches, Padre Faura in Taft, Quirino Highway in Novaliches, Maria Orosa Street in Padre Faura, P. Campa Street in Sampaloc, Instruction Florentino also in Sampaloc, Adriatico, Ermita, Manila, Maria Orosa Street, I think that's a repeat, España Boulevard, Corner Quintos, A. Rodriguez, Muñoz, Manila City Hall, EDSA, Underpass, Lasal, Lacson, Remedios, Circle, etc. So what I'm trying to say here is that even before the event, it is advantageous to us to look at the hazards in your neighborhood. So we come prepared, because if we are knowledgeable about what can happen in our area, then we already understand the problem. And without knowing that problem, we can never find a correct solution. Now, about 59.7% of LGUs, according to a UNDP report, use and are aware of our high-resolution hazard maps for planning their communities. That means that it's not only for the individuals, it's also for the local government units and the general community to use the maps for crafting their comprehensive land use plans, they're making their assessments, their disaster risk reduction management plans, local climate change action plans, those that were discussed earlier by Professor Sanchez. Okay, so what we're seeing here are maps that were validated during Habagat. We've been doing this validation for about 10 years now, and it seems to be working very well, not just for us, but also for the people in the community, as evidenced by the large number of visits that we have in the website. We have also been looking at the exposure of communities, and we see that for flooding, this is the top 10. It's for the entire Philippines, by the way. Exposure to landslides, Central Visayas, because of its population, is at number 1. We know that the cities in Cebu are very near mountains, and that's why there are exposure. That's why their exposure is quite high, and number 1 in that list. Top 10 provinces from storm surges, again, it's Metro Manila. And if we look at the total number of fatalities, if you want to ask whether we have been doing well in terms of disaster risk reduction efforts, just a minute, ha? Medyo may tao kung tumatahol yung answer. Just a minute. Okay, I think there was enough time for you to look at this. This is from the EM.Dot International Disaster Database from 1986 to 2013. Number of deaths was about 1,000 to 1,250. And after 2013, from 2014 to 2022, it was reduced to about 250. If we look at the losses and damages as listed in the international database, EM.Dot for hydrometeorological hazards or severe weather events, we can see that the losses and damages remained nearly the same all throughout from 1986 to 2022. So that means that we really have to do more in terms of mitigating the losses and damages, although we have made a dent in reducing already the number of deaths. So this is what we call as counterfactual evidence. It is difficult to determine what could have happened during the period 2014 onwards, and also pinpoint exactly what caused the approximate 75% reduction in the average number of deaths per year. From 297 deaths per year, 297 deaths per year, from greater than 1,000 deaths per year. And if we are to imagine a scenario with no interventions made, the average number of deaths would have remained above 1,000 fatalities per year based on counterfactual evidence derived from the EMDAT records prior to 2014. And if the counterfactual narrative is true, then more than 6,750 lives were saved in the last 9 years. Now, there were major events and policies in Philippine CCADRR efforts. These are the things that I can think of. The CSCAN agencies made national hazard maps 2004. They're still available today. In 2009, there was the Climate Change Act, 10129, DRR Act. There was the launch of the flagship program of government for DRR, NOAA, wherein there were maps that were made at high resolution. Pre-disaster risk assessment, giving hazard-specific area focus and time-bound warnings were institutionalized in the NDRRMC. The NOAA program was in 2017 adopted by the University of the Philippines. And then this, I think, is very important because it deals with climate change scenarios. In 2019, there was the National Climate Risk Management Framework Policy, CCC Policy number 2019-001. So that policy says probabilistic risk assessment is necessary, and that is also embedded in the Philippine Development Plan of 2017-2022, as well as the Philippine Development Plan of 2020 and 2030. It is also part of the UNDRR Words into Action Guidelines document, translating what has been discussed in the Sendai Framework Conference, putting it into action through words. And this one is a special topic: why invest in probabilistic risk assessment? So that means that it is considered as international practice, this probabilistic risk assessment, and it also has legal basis. In simple terms, this probabilistic risk assessment would involve not just the historical worst-case scenario. It should involve multiple scenarios that also include climate change. So there are scenarios more than just what we have experienced, like in this example, climate change, maybe also shared socioeconomic pathways, RCP. Then you have small floods, much bigger floods, and depending on the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that we emit into the atmosphere, the scientists would say that the rains will become bigger, and therefore the floods will also become bigger. So based on the flood maps that were made largely from historical accounts, if people were to say where the evacuation center would be because of their experience, that would be the place that they will select. But with the scenarios, we can easily see that, okay, it would agree if the floods were not too big. But with bigger floods and even with climate change floods, which are expected to be bigger, that evacuation center would be dangerous. So it's important that we do probabilistic risk assessment. It's not the rain that we're interested in. We should translate it into flood hazard maps because those hazards are the ones that kill. And we should mainstream that information to create risk-informed and science-based comprehensive land use plans and all other plans that are required by government for LGUs to make. Plans should cut across sectors, all sectors. These are all the sectors that were hit by the biohazard in COVID during the pandemic. all natural hazards that I've been talking about can also be affected. And that is the reason why our plan should cut across all sectors, coastal, water, health, water, biodiversity, environment, energy, education, and so forth. And this should be embedded or crafted, mainstreamed into zoning ordinance, local climate change action plan, local disaster plans, as we have been doing for nearly 40 local government units who seek our help at UPRI. Now, the UP, University of the Philippines, under the leadership of President Gigil Jimenez, wants UP to be more relevant, wants to do more public service. And one of the flagship programs is getting SUCs to help in the effort of disaster risk reduction and climate change actions. What we're thinking of, this is actually flagship program number 6, is to empower key actors across all sectors in formulating risk-informed development plans, as we have been doing and as was talked about by Dr. Sanchez earlier. And to do this, we have to co-create knowledge with SUCs, have capacity enhancement and co-creation of knowledge with partner SUCs, also assist in development planning such that if we are able to empower key actors, we know that we can't do it all alone as just the UP Resilience Institute. We have to collaborate and co-create knowledge with partner SUCs who are all over the Philippines. When we do such plans, I think it's very well established that scholarly articles tell that good planning of local government units lead to the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is this maroon box over here. There are many existing projects for knowledge sharing, capacity building, and sharing of resources. I can name some. We have the Open University, we have the UP, TVUP, UNESCO, IGCP projects, NSTP, Bangsamoro Institute initiative of UP, the NOAA website, which we can all share and help local government units and communities plan their place according to the vision of the people who live there. And also, we want to emphasize that if this is a concerted effort amongst all of the SUCs and LUCs, we can actually fund the science that is needed for crafting of the development plans, because we don't just use it for response and preparedness, we use it also, that LDRRM fund, for prevention and mitigation, which is the most important part of the 4 pillars of disaster risk reduction. This fund, which is in the law, no, are a amount of 34 billion pesos a year, replenished every year. And that may be used, if we all know it, by the local government units and SUCs to craft the plans that can eventually lead into the Sustainable Development Goals. So that is the plan right now, right? I think we already have MOUs with about 70 SUCs, and we're trying to work with Mindanao institutions, SUCs in Mindanao, to be able to look at this framework and execute it for the development of our nation. We have done only 40 in the past 10 years, and maybe if we do a system, make a system, everybody working together, we can get all of our communities to develop and grow unhampered by hazards. Thank you. But before I end, I would like to show you some of the things in NOAA. Maybe I can make this opportunity to show you what's inside. If you go to the NOAA UP EduPH website, you can easily see where the weather disturbance is relative to the Philippine area of responsibility. And you can also look at the flood hazard maps if you explore it. There are 5-year return, 25 and 100-year rain return floods. Okay, let me see. Okay, okay, sorry. I think I have to. All right. So let's look at my place. My place is here. There you go. I can move. You can move the pin. My just probably around 200 meters away from my house, there are settlements in a flood-prone area that would need help in case this scenario happens. And if you go to, for example, Coronadal, okay, there's also something there, and you can look at it in 3D. Okay, you look at it in 3D. So while you're holding your conference, it might be useful to look at this map and see where you are, and see also whether there are hazards in the place that you are located in. It's also good for landslides. It's also good for storm surges. Again, these are scenarios that will help you prepare, raise awareness against severe weather hazards. I hope that all of us use them because it might increase our chances of survival. Thank you very much, and I hope you visit the website of NOAA and be able to be part of this nationwide effort of getting the SUCs and the local government units as well as stakeholders, including the private sector, to work on the sustainable development goals through risk-informed and science-based plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alfredo Mahal Francisco Inglagman, Associate Member of the Earth and Species Division of NRCP. So, he just joined us from Zoom. Saan ko na ngayon si Sir? Nasa Maynila. Sa UP. Sa UP po.
Nasa marami akong mga talk magkakasunod. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge and your data dito po sa aming sa Stakeholders Forum. So on this part of the program, I can see now we're already preparing our lunch. So we'll have a lunch break. And for our lunch break, it's good that we will say our prayers first. So I would like to request everyone to please stand. I see. Okay, sige po. Sorry po, please sit down. So, i-maximize po na natin yung time ni Dr. Hinay. Sayang po, diba? So, hindi tayo na lang ng lunch. Wait lang. So, Doc, can we have this opportunity to ask questions?
Okay.
Wait. So, do we have questions for Dr. Akbar on this topic, natural hazards, landslides, and other geological hazards? So let's have.
Sige po.
Sige po. Yes. Yes, sir. So I original for director for DOST.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Hello. Good morning.
It's doing our futures plan, futures insight for 50 years from now. And spot by this data from research and the return of floods for 5 years, 25 years, and 50 years. What would be the scenario in 50 years from now? Because I asked this one because this is a proper time for us to prepare for that scenario. Thank you, sir.
Sige po. Doon sa slides ko po, maybe I can show it, no? Depende po, case specific 'yon sa area of interest, no? Minomodel po 'yon ng PAGASA, minomodel din 'yan ng mga scientists from universities, and then they downscale the rainfall amount, no? And yung pong mga rainfall amounts na yon have to be translated into flood hazard maps. Kasi wala naman po tayong nakikitang namamatay sa napatakan ng ulan, no? So kailangan i-translate yon sa hazard maps, and yung mga hazard maps na yon can be of different scenarios depending on the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. Not just scenarios for at least 10 years from now, maybe by 2050 or maybe 100 years from now, no? 21, 24. So medyo advanced planning talaga yon. But it would be good to mainstream that or incorporate that into our plans para risk-informed. Kasi yun po yung foundation para hindi natin na-underestimate yung mga baha. Katulad, for example, nung baha na nangyari, yung storm surge na nangyari sa Tacloban, nung Yolanda, it was underestimated. So sabi doon sa hazard map, mga 20 to 30 meters lang inland papasok. So yung mga evacuation centers ay a little bit off lang, no? Mga 50, 60 meters or maybe 100 meters away from the coast because that the basis was the hazard map. So kapag gumagawa tayo ng multiple scenarios na sinasabi gagrabe yung bagyo, lalakas yung wind, lalaki din yung storm surge. Ang nangyari sa Tacloban was pumasok siya ng more than 2 kilometers at 70% ng evacuation centers ay namatay. So basically what I'm saying is that with climate change scenarios, kailangan natin ma-depict yun as basis for crafting our plans. Kasi kung historical ang ating hazard maps, hindi tayo gumagawa ng climate change adaptation. Wala tayong ginagawang intervention against climate change hazard scenarios. Ang ginagawa natin, yung mga nakaraan lang, yung ating mga experiences lang in the past. What's in the historical record. Now, yung pong mga scenarios na sinasabi nyo, hindi pa po din namin nagagawa yon for the entire Philippines. Nagagawa din po namin yon doon sa mga mayors, local government units who seek our help. And dahil nga nagkaroon na po kami ng maraming experience, hindi lang sa UP Resilience Institute, but many groups in the University of the Philippines, we want to share that. Actually, mga SUCs, marami din magagaling, no? We want to establish a system, share our resources, co-create knowledge para yung mga sectors like agriculture, yung science doon, yung monitoring, yung data, ma-incorporate do sa mga plano. Hindi naman pwedeng adaptation measure ng corn because of climate change na kukunin natin galing Israel or Europe, di ba? Dapat yung monitoring niyan at saka yung science research niyan done locally by the SUCs. Sila lang naman ang magre-research. And yung input, yung output ng scientific research ng mga experts in different fields, no? Maybe agriculture, sa energy, dapat local knowledge din. And they should be the content of our land use plans. And I've been hearing kanina pa na science-based, science-based. There's no better way to have science than get all of the outputs and fund the science research of state universities and college and get those outputs incorporated into the plans of the local government units na kinukonsulta yung mga stakeholders, tapos tinatanong yung mga stakeholders about what they want their vision of their community to become in the future. Kasi ano ba ang gusto nila? Development ba or environmental protection ba? Kailangan may balance yon. And that should be incorporated through stakeholder consultations, put into plans, and executed as risk-informed and science-based projects, programs, and activities.
So, Dr. May, and of course, we are joined online by our stakeholders, hindi lang po dito sa City of Coronadal. Can you show Sir Ian that we are joined by colleagues online? Encourage kung meron gusto magtanong from Zoom, those are joining in Zoom, ask questions to our presenter. Anyone? You can raise your hand virtually. Ano kaya? So while waiting, pwede isa pa on the forum, okay, sir.
Okay, morning. So kasi din ako government image solution rather than adopting infra for our local plans.
Pakiulit na lang po yung tanong, medyo garbled. Hindi, garbled po yung sa inyo, pero yung yung moderator hindi po garbled. Pakiulit na lang po yung tanong.
Sige na po na check ko lang.
Garbled po eh, hindi ko talaga maintindihan yung tanong. Paki-translate na lang po or pakisulat na lang sa chat.
Sige po yan. Implement for construction infrastructure projects for local labs. Kasi
Dali lang yung aso na naman. Dali. Yan, sinulat na. Okay, for the local government, would you recommend more nature-based solutions rather than hard infra? Ako po ay kailangan maintindihan ng mga tao ito, no? Hindi lahat ng baha, for example, ay kaya ng mga hard infra. No? Merong mga baha na maliit at moderate, katamtaman lamang, na kaya ng mga hard infra like dikes. Pero kapag malaki na, hindi na po kaya ng hard infra yon. No? Kasi more than 100-year rain return or 150-year rain return, malaking baha yon. At ma-overwhelm yung hard infra. That should be complemented by mga nature-based solutions like make room for the river. Kung maaari nga make room for the river, wala nang para yung mga floodplains hindi natin tinatayuan or hindi natin tinatayuan ng mga subdivision. Hindi nandun yung development. Kasi kung nandun sa development yung floodplains, yung development natin, miya't-maya tayong tatamaan kapag dumating yung malakas na ulan na magiging malaking baha. Ayun po. So maganda siguro mas complementation dahil minsan kailangan din natin ng mga yung mga hard infra for mga baha, for the floods that come very frequently, no? Na very frequently tapos katamtaman lang siya. Malaki din ang nagagawa noon, pero nagrereklamo tayo pagka na-overwhelm siya kapag masyadong malaki. So, ako po talagang nature-based solutions, pero sometimes hindi natin maiiwasan, kailangan natin mag-hard infra. But at the same time, maganda din siguro na kung talagang hindi kaya yung mga malalaki, unahin yung nature-based solutions. Kung talagang kailangan din na tayuan, combine ng dalawang nature-based and hard infra. Yun po yung aking pagtingin, no? Yung aking opinion based do sa nakikita ko, especially nung nangyari dito sa Carina. And it's good na dapat kino-communicate yon, na kasi it's creating a false sense of security also na pag pinackage natin yung, let's say, isang malaking flood control project ng mga dike, sinasabi na it addresses the floods. Hindi po totoo yun, especially dito sa Metro Manila. Kasi for example, dito sa Metro Manila, nilalagyan lang ng dike ay yung yung San Juan River and yung Marikina River at saka Pasig. Sa totoo lang, it's a drainage network na maraming mga creeks and streams that also have floodplains. And the problem of flooding is not just beside those rivers na major. Pati yung mga streams, creeks, nandun po yung mga maraming baha na kino-complain ng mga tao. And ang suggestion ko talaga is good planning, no? Pagka overcrowded and overpopulated, it's hard to plan. But we have a lot of places na malaki pang lupa, pwede pang planuhin. Metro Manila is very much congested, overpopulated, and with the growing threat of climate change, we need to think about it now, what we should be doing.
Thank you, Doc Lagnay. So, meron pa po ba ang magtatanong for Doc? We have, okay, one last question. So, can you introduce yourself, sir? Try natin makamarinig ng ngayon. Sure.
Solution. Solution to this.
Paki-type na lang ulit.
National Greening Program, ano ba ba? Is it a solution?
Nakakabawas po 'yon ng baha, no? Siyempre ang forest cover, ang mga puno, umisipsip ng tubig 'yan eh. So kapag dinidelay nila yung runoff. Kapag marami po tayong ganyan, hindi po sabay-sabay umaagos yung tubig ulan doon sa ilog. And pag nangyari 'yon, nababawasan natin. Pero sa totoo lang, yung mga ulan po natin dito sa Philippines ay hindi simple. In the UK, for example, I was talking to some flood scientists there sa Response, yung kanilang yung flood institute. Sabi nila 100 millimeters of rain is already devastating. It can wipe out a village, and they're scared about 100 millimeters of rain. Sa totoo lang, dito sa Philippines, for example, yung sa Metro Manila nung Habagat 2024, in 12 hours sa Quezon City Station sa Science Garden, we recorded about 400 millimeters of rainfall in 12 hours. Yung weather station dun sa Lamesa Dam recorded more than 500 millimeters of rainfall in 12 hours. So our problem is really big. So lahat ng pwede nating gawin, no, including reforestation, the greening program, we should do that because it lessens the problem.
So, mukhang administration system natin. So, exclusive ba? Hindi basta-basta talin-talin ng pagandang ito. Sinigita namin sa region plan. So, the report of we are in crisis na. Because your sources of water sa prison mounted ranges, mounted ranges. Wala nang kakulang, sir. Saan ang gawin mo na interim solution ng gawin mo na business nila? Possibility. It's the sources of kasi yung study of my prayer, this was studied from France. Means we can even
Paki-translate, paki-chat na lang po din. At garbled po talaga, hindi ko maintindihan. Baka pwede, quick naman yung pag-chat ng question. Hintayin ko lang lumabas. It's a comment. It was not a question.
Yung deforestation.
Basta, ano po, I'm all for the greening program. Tama po kayo doon. We should reforest. We should preserve our forests in the mountains kasi malaking tulong po sila sa biodiversity, sa pagsipsip ng carbon, etc.
So, yung nakita ng scientist na gusto ko na forest so in forest canopy wala mapagpapalaga ng sources of water na kung because sinasabi natin na under to the world to developments wala nang situation or ano ko kasi yung that's why we should spend some of the development yun ang ating solution so yung discussion at saka
Meron dito sa chat, sinabi, what's your comment po about forest canopy using bamboo? Marami po akong nadidinig na ganyan. It's best probably to get UPLB foresters to answer that. Sana hindi invasive, pero again, the best answer will come from UPLB, and I believe there are UPLB foresters in that conference, in this conference.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike, for joining us. Can you give me please? Thank you for your time. So, now po si Dr. Yuki. So, ngayon po, since we can welcome mga presenters, we can see other questions later. We can write it down sa paper, and then pwede po i-collect ni Sir Ian. So, sorry for your question. Ganun din po sa